I was looking at this section before I began here and I realized that I've kind of already let the cat out of the bag on this. We're going to be looking at negative exponents, which I kind of already have done. We've been using those for some time. Um, so I'll refresh you on what the idea was. So do you remember uh, if we had something like this? We saw that this would mean there's two x's on the top and wow, that's terrible. 2x's on the top and 4 on the bottom. We slash that down. That would mean 1 over x squared. There's 2 left down on the bottom. But we also had this rule, this shortcut that said I could subtract them. So I can just do x to the second minus 4. Well, that gets me a negative as my answer. Well, x to the negative second and 1 over x to the second have to be the same thing because they're doing the exact same idea, just with two different processes. So this and this must be the same thing. And so the moral is, if you have a negative exponent, you can move it across the fraction line to make it a positive. So here I have 4 to the negative second. We can just move it to the bottom to make it a positive. And then 4 to the second is 16, so they just finish that up. Same here. So I can move 10 to the negative third down to the bottom, and it becomes a positive 3. Now, down on the bottom, I could do 10 to the third, and it would give me 1 over 1,000. Okay, so same here. We can move that to the bottom and get 2 to the positive 3. And since that's an easy one to do, we'll do that. We'd get, what we get 4, we get 1 over 8. Okay, the same with this. We'd have 1 over 10 to the 7th. So that's going to be 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros. Now, I would actually be okay with you leaving that, but there you go. Okay, so I'm going to move it to the bottom to get a positive exponent, and that's 1 to the 9th. I'm going to move this to the bottom to get a positive exponent. Okay. All right, now we haven't seen this before. When I talked about it, I kind of alluded to this. We can move it across the fraction bar to make it a positive. Well, there's negatives on the bottom. Well, we can move it across the fraction bar and move it to the top. So yeah, I wondered how they might show it, but so that's it. Now, the reason is not word. It's easier to just understand. I can show you a long way about why that is, but we're just moving it across the top. So I can move him from the bottom to the top. Let me just tell you, it's fractions, like it's keep, change, flip is what would be happening here, but it's easier just to know what's going on. I can just move him across the fraction bar and he becomes a positive. Okay. Yeah, this is good. I've never thought about this one. So if I have 5 to the 7th to the negative second, so what is going to happen here? Oh yeah, I think I like it like this. So this is what we've seen before. So we can make that 5 to the negative second over 7 to the negative second. Remember, if we have a fraction and we can give the exponent to both of them. So do you agree with this? Well, let's cross them both over the line. So this one wants to move to the bottom to become a positive second, and the 7 wants to move across the line there. Do you see what's going to happen? They're going to flip upside down. So that's the point here, is that if you think of it individually, what's going to happen is they're both going to trade places. So they did that in one step, but here's why. Let me again say it one more time. I can give the negative exponent to both of them. Well, I want to get rid of a negative exponent, he'd move to the bottom. Well, I want to get rid of this negative exponent, he'd move to the top. So we could think of that. What's going to happen here is you could just flip the fraction upside down and give it a positive exponent. Yeah, so here we go. They flipped the fraction upside down for this second one, flipped the fraction upside down and gave it a positive exponent. So that's really what would be happening. So I'm going to flip this upside down and make it a positive exponent. So now remember, remember we saw this trick where we could give it to both of them. So that would be 81 over 16. Now I can flip this one upside down and give it a positive exponent. Now I'm going to give the square to both of them. Now it's a negative, it's not negative n all squared, it's just n, so it's negative n to the second. Oh, well, no, it is all, so I think I'm doing that wrong. So it would be like I'm giving negative 1n all squared and 6m all squared. Yeah, it would be. It would have to all be squared. So the negative 1 to the second power becomes a positive. So this would become positive 1 n to the second. On the bottom here I'd have 36 because I'm squaring the 6 and I'm squaring the m. Okay, do this again. I can turn this upside down and make it a positive 3. So now I can give the exponent to each of them. So 5 to the third over 3 to the third. So this is 125 over 27. So 5 to the third and 3 to the third. Now I'm going to turn this one upside down. And it's to the fourth power. So I'm giving the fourth to each of them. So this is really quite confusing, but yeah, I think this one is difficult to see. I'm going to think of it like it's negative 2b over a. Okay? All to the fourth. So I'm giving this, let me show you. So we're giving it to the top, and we're giving it to the bottom. Now see, I moved the negative up with that top. Remember, you're allowed to move that negative sign anywhere you want. And I wanted you to see that it's negative 2 to the fourth. So negative 2 to the fourth is going to be a positive 16. I give the 4 to the b, I get b to the fourth. On the bottom, the a gets a fourth, and we got it. Okay, they're just doing a lot of variations here to show you the differences with the negative signs. So here on a, the negative is being included. So if I move, yeah, they didn't do that right. It should be a plus 2 there. So they moved it to the bottom to make it a positive exponent, but negative 3 is being squared. So it's 1/9. Now on the next one, the negative 3 is in front. It is not being taken to the negative second power because it wasn't in the parentheses. So they moved the 3 to the bottom and squared it now. So this becomes this, but the negative is out front. He didn't come along for the ride, so it's negative 1/9. Now I have negative 1/3 to the negative 2. So it's a fraction, so I'm going to turn him upside down and make him a positive. Now the negative is inside the parentheses, so this is now negative 3 to the second power. That's positive 9. And then what was the last one? Okay, so a negative outside, I'm going to flip that upside down. So here's what they're saying. The negative is not included. So I'm going to flip him upside down. He's now 3 over 1. I'm going to square that because now it's become a positive 2 there by flipping him upside down. So this becomes 9, and there was a negative out front, so it's negative 9. So just getting a little tricky here. Let me take you through some more. So the negative 5 is in the parentheses, so this is all going to the bottom. This would now be, so if you square negative 5, it's positive 25. So that's a. So now the negative is not included, so I'm not going to do it like they did. I'm just going to leave the negative there, and the 5 goes to the bottom and gets squared. So it's negative 1 over 25. On this one, I have a negative exponent and a fraction, so I'm going to turn it upside down, and it becomes a positive. Well, the negative was included, so this is really negative 5 squared, which is positive 25. Okay, I have a fraction with a negative exponent, so I'm going to turn him upside down. Now it's positive. But the negative was on the outside. He was not included. So this is 5 squared with a negative out front, so negative 25. Okay, same thing again. Try it yourself if you want to go through. It'd be good for you to do that. This is quite tricky. So I'm going to make this 1 over negative 7 now on the bottom. It was included. The negative went for the ride. So this is 1 over positive 49. If you square negative 7 times negative 7, you get 49. Okay, here on B, the negative is not included, so only the 7 is going to the bottom. and getting squared. So it's negative 1 over 49. Okay, I've got a fraction with a negative exponent, so I'm going to turn that upside down. And now it's a positive exponent. Well, 7 over 1 doesn't make any difference. This is negative 7 squared. Well, that's positive 49. Now I got a negative out front, and I turn him upside down. It's 7 over 1 with a positive exponent now, because I turned him upside down. This is 49 with a negative out front. Okay, so we have some expressions here. So they're just, again, showing us some different combinations. Let's see if I can use theirs. So this is the only thing going to the bottom. So it's 1 over 2, and you could simplify. So that's now fractions. It's 4 times 1. So you could think of it like this. Top times top, bottom times bottom is 4 over 2. That reduces down to 2. Now the second one, everything is being taken to the negative 1/2 power. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally says do inside of there first. That gets me 8. Now 8 to the negative first moves to the bottom, and I would get this. Okay, so only the 3 is moving to the bottom here. So I have 6 over 3 to the first, which is just 3. That reduces down to 2. Now, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally says everything in the parentheses is done first, which is 18 now to the negative first. Let's get rid of the negative exponent. I get 1 over 18. Okay, same thing here. 8 is not going. Only the 2 is going to the bottom to get a positive exponent. I've got 8 over 4. I've got 2. On B, I've got to do what's in the parentheses first. I've got 16 to the negative second, which moves to the bottom and becomes 16 to the second, which I don't know what that is. So I'm going to get a calculator. 256. Okay. All right, what do they have for us here? The first one's easy. I guess we haven't done a lot of variables yet. So the first one's easy. We already know this. We've talked about this for a while. X to the negative 6 is going to move to the bottom and become 1 over x to the 6. Now, we've seen this too. I'm going to do a power to a power, and that's going to, yeah, I don't like the way they do that. Let's do it our way. So I'm going to start off by doing a power to a power. This would be easier. So 4 times negative 3 is u to the negative 12th. We've done that, power to a power, but I don't want it to be a negative exponent, so I'm going to move it to the bottom and get u to the 12th. Okay, now we've done this one for quite some time. I'm going to move the negative exponent to the bottom. It's going to make it y to the 7th. On this one, I think it's better to multiply them first. It's a power to a power. That gets me z to the negative 15th. Now let's move that down below, and I get z to the 15th. 1 over z to the 15th. Okay, same thing, 1 over p to the 9th. Now I'm going to do the power to a power first and get q to the negative 24, which then moves it to the bottom to get rid of the negative. Okay, they're just doing more tricks to us here. On this one, only the y is going to the bottom. So only the y moves to the bottom, and we get 5 over y. On this one, everything is moving to the bottom because of the parentheses. So everything moved to the bottom, and I get this. And then the last one, everything including the negative moved to the bottom. Now, I would get this, but remember we're allowed to move the negative out front if we'd like, which would be a good idea. Okay, various tricks here. So only this guy is moving to the bottom, so I'd have 8 over p. On B, everything is moving to the bottom. And on C, everything's moving to the bottom, but I have a negative 8 included. So that's all negative 8p is moving to the bottom. Now, I could put the negative out front and make that negative 1 over 8p. Okay, all the same tricks here. I've got 11 over q. Only that's moving to the bottom. Here the whole thing is moving to the bottom because of the parenthesis. Here the negative is out front, and all of this is moving to the bottom, so I would get this. Did you follow that? The negative is not going. Doesn't really matter if you did on this one, but all of that is moving down. Now here, all of it's going to the bottom. Oops, hold on. All of it's going to the bottom on C. All of it's going down. Oh, the letters are messed up here. I'm not sure what side. This should be D, but all of it moves to the bottom. But we know if there's a negative in front there, we can just put him in front of the whole fraction, and we'd get this. Okay, be careful in this. Make sure you're following me, because I think we've got one more section on this, one or maybe two, I don't remember, and I'm sure it's going to get quite crazy. So make sure you got these basics down.